Okay, so today's class is about Bootstrap. Okay, you've probably seen this word before, Bootstrap. So, what is Bootstrap and why we use Bootstrap? So essentially, if you did the project, you will see that the payment application form project, you probably notice that there is a lot of CSS that you have to write there, right? It's a lot of CSS because even a form as simple as that, like 10 inputs and some designs on the inputs and some layouts, right? Even something as simple as that, as a form, it will require you to write a lot of CSS, correct? And the other thing is maintaining CSS after you wrote that CSS is really painful and it takes a lot of time. So, we'll say not a couple of years, it was probably over 10 years ago, probably 15 years ago, a couple of engineers at Twitter decided to fix this in a way, and they created Bootstrap. And Bootstrap is essentially a set of CSS classes pre-written for you that allow you to solve most of the issues that you have with CSS. So all the problems that you have with CSS, for example, laying out elements on the page, right? That's all with Bootstrap. Creating buttons, that's all with Bootstrap. Creating inputs, that's all with Bootstrap. Creating a bunch of elements, components in the page that are pretty common from one page to the other. Those are already solved for you. So, for example, buttons, right? You remember that a button is something like this, right? Something probably like this. It probably has some round corners and then some text inside. And depending on the use of the button, you will have a green button, or you will have, I don't know, if you want to, let's say, delete data, you will have a red button. Right? So that's pretty common design language in most applications. So they came up with classes where you can just apply those classes to your buttons or your anchor tags, and then those buttons will be already styled as a button with all the properties that you need, right? So essentially, Bootstrap is a set of CSS classes to solve most, I'm saying most, not all, styling and layout and layering problems of building modern web applications. Okay? Yes?
So, I mean, they call it a framework. Right? Is that what a framework is?
A framework.
It's a library.
It's more like a library. A framework is a word to describe something else. I think it's more like a library. It's something that you can use and it will give you a functionality, right? Inside, when you open it, like it can be called a framework because it has so many stuff inside, right? So it has classes for layout, it has classes for typography, it has classes for components, and it has classes for utility like margins, paddings, etc. Right? That's why, like when you see it from the outside, okay, it's a library that I can use in my project. But once you open and you see all the documentation, you see, okay, this is a framework. How I'm going to create an app, right? 15 years ago, when Bootstrap came out, every app looked exactly the same, right? They all looked the same. They all looked Bootstrap. And that was essentially the look and feel of Twitter 15 years ago, right? If you had Twitter 15 years ago, that was Twitter was looking like. With time, eventually, it evolved. Right now, we're going to use Bootstrap 5. That's the latest version, Bootstrap 5. In the documentation, you can see Bootstrap 4, but we will use Bootstrap 5. Okay? Now, this set of CSS classes, Bootstrap in particular, is not the only one out there, right? So it was probably the first. I'm not sure it was the first, but it was certainly not the last. So right now, there is a huge set of other libraries that people can use doing the exact same thing. We use Bootstrap because it's really simple. It's been in the industry for years, right? And a lot of people can still use it today. The other thing that Bootstrap, you can style it, so you can adopt the identity of your company. So it's no longer that every app looks the same. You can adopt Bootstrap and then customize it to your needs. So you can change the patterns, the colors, the color palette that they're using. You can modify that. So it will look more like your identity, your company identity, than the Bootstrap default identity, right? And those modifications, they call it themes, right? You can use one pre-built by someone else. You can buy themes, Bootstrap themes online as well, or you can just build your own, right? Or just use Bootstrap the way it comes out of the box, and they will still be a good-looking app because it's already everything is already built for you. Okay. Before I move on, questions about Bootstrap?
So
Yes.
if anything ever happens to Bootstrap, all these websites would be down.
No.
No.
The thing is that Bootstrap is open source,
Yeah.
right? So that means that even if the people that build Bootstrap and still maintains Bootstrap, they say, I don't want to work in this anymore, the code's still open. That means that anybody can take it and continue working on it and continue using it.
But I mean, you gotta pull it from some kind of.
No, you can
source.
download it. Yeah, you can.
You just pull the
Yeah.
classes and then.
Yeah,
put
use it in your
different
project. Yeah.
CSS files. And
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, it's not connected to a central server or anything.
Okay.
That is not like that. Yeah, exactly. I see your point. Yeah, it's maintained. It's open source. It's maintained by. I'm not sure. We have to check it out. But if those people disappear tomorrow, there will still be a Bootstrap version somewhere, right? And the other thing is that you can still take it and extend it. Of course, the problem is that now it's Bootstrap 5. There will not be a Bootstrap 6 anymore, right? Because the people that were maintaining Bootstrap no longer working on that. But now you can still, you can create your own Bootstrap.
So you go to the Bootstrap site, you find your class, you get it. And
Yeah, let's do it. Bootstrap 5. And that's the website. So right now we have version 5.3, right? And this is all the documentation that you need to start using Bootstrap. By the way, we will be using the documentation a lot, right? Because of course, Bootstrap has a huge set of classes that we can use for many purposes. And sometimes the way to use them is very, I would say, the structure of the code is very complex. Not complex, it has a lot of tags to be able to achieve. For example, if you want to create, you see this in this web page, it has like a nav bar on the top, right? That's Bootstrap. So if you want to have something like that in your app, you can copy it, like there is an example of that and you can copy it, but the example is a lot of code, right? The classes are already there, the classes are Bootstrap, but the code that you have to use is substantial. So you have to write some code to have something similar to this. But as you can see, this has like an icon, it has links, it has a search bar, it has icon over here, even has like a selector here, it has a dark mode selector. By the way, that dark mode selector is also Bootstrap, right? So Bootstrap, this version supports all that out of the box, right? You don't have to write CSS. Like the point is not having to go to the CSS file anymore. You don't need to write CSS anymore, right? We want to avoid that because that's costly. That takes time. Every time you have to write CSS, that takes time. And if you have to maintain the CSS, it's even more time. So we want to avoid writing CSS. We want to write HTML only, and then use Bootstrap classes, okay? So let me give you an example of how that looks like. For example, let's create a button.
Is this what you use when you meant that you barely use CSS at work?
Yes, but I don't use Bootstrap. And that's what I said, that the Bootstrap is not the only
It's a
one.
different library.
This is a different library. I use one called Tailwind. It's similar, but with a different twist, right? So yeah, then a lot of other alternatives came out. There is Bootstrap, Tailwind, Bulma, Material. There is a Blueprint. There's a bunch of them. To a point where every other company, like big company, had their own team building their own library, right? Because that's part of their identity.
Your branding, right?
The branding, exactly. So IBM has its own, Microsoft has its own, even smaller company, Glassdoor has its own. I know Shopify has its own. So you can build a website that looks exactly like Shopify because Shopify has its own set of libraries for doing this type of thing. So you can take those and create.
Those are open source, you said?
Yeah, those are most of them are open source. The point of having it, the point of making them open source, it means that any engineer out there can use them, right? So when they go to hire, if they have exposure to that, it's a plus, right? Because they're hiring someone that already knows your code or part of your code, right? So that's one of the benefits of that. Cool. So let's see an example of a button in Bootstrap, how that Bootstrap works. So let me open GS Fiddle here. I think we can use Bootstrap in GS Fiddle. So here, oh, no, here. Oh, yes, not GS Fiddle. How can we use Bootstrap? I guess. Okay, let's take, for example, a button. Okay, button. Okay, so this is an example. Oh, let me make it look a little bit bigger so everybody can see it. Okay, don't pay too much attention to all this code over here because we will learn how to integrate Bootstrap in your own projects later. This is basically all the Bootstrap dependencies, the JavaScript and the CSS that we need to be able to use Bootstrap. What we're going to pay attention is in this section over here, right? So we're going to create a button. Let's call it the send button, send data. Remember from the form that we were creating? So it's a button, type button, class BTN. So that class BTN means that this button will be styled as a button. Right now, this is a button, right? Now, from the documentation, I can see that there are variants of buttons, right? I have a primary button, a secondary button, success, danger, warning, info, light, dark, and link, right? So which one I want to use? I will probably want to use the success. So notice here that for the success, I have to use BTN class and then BTN dash success. So if I use these two classes, BTN success, now I have a button style like that. Oh, I want to make it bigger. So what's the documentation says about sizes? If I want large, small, or even smaller, I want BTN LG. That means button large. So I go and I add that class, BTN LG. And now it's large. Let's make another button here. Let's put the cancel. Now instead of a button, I will use an A tag, right? Because I wanted to make it a link. Remember, you can style it same way as a button. This will go to cancel. So default link will look like this. But if I do class BTN and BTN, I think it was secondary, right? Secondary. that now is a button. Still a link. I mean, I can still click it. And notice the thing is that it already shows like a hand when you hover it. Also has like an effect, right? Also has the other thing that you probably don't see there is that it has this how you call the
Hover.
it's like an outline. This is a usability feature. So people that don't have a mouse can still use the page, right? And yeah, let's make it bigger. BTN large. There you go. So it's just classes. I'm not writing CSS, but look, style, right? Now let's see in terms of inputs. Forms, form control. This is an input, right? And notice for an input, you only have to use something called form control. So let's create a form control here, an input. Input type text. So this will be a regular input, default styling, default browser styling, very brutal style, I would say. But as soon as I do class form control, you see that style now is applied. So the focus adds that outline, is a little bit nicer. It has a very, because I zoom the page, but of course we have sizes. So we have large, default, and small. So what if we want a large? We can copy that class. Form control large. There you go. Great.
It's calling the styles just from that link href up in the header.
Exactly, yes.
So we just have that in our.
Yeah, we're going to see a way to add all this. And by the way, that's in the documentation. When you go to the page, you can see in the introduction, they have like a quick start, and the steps are really there, right?
Okay.
Include the Bootstrap CSS and JavaScript. So this is the CSS, this is the JavaScript. Whatever you put inside that body will be Bootstrap. Can be styled as Bootstrap, right? But you need the CSS and you need this JavaScript.
Yeah.
The JavaScript is needed because some components in Bootstrap require a little bit of JavaScript, right? Like for example, when you do models, let me see if I can find it. By the way, components you can select. Like for example, this is an accordion, right? You have alerts. Remember this from the payment form? Now you know how to get it. So you have batches, breadcrumbs, buttons, of course, cards, navbar. This is the navbar. You see the main component on the top. You see over there how it looks like. But you see that for that navbar, I need all this code, right? To make it look exactly like the one I have on top. Yes, do you have a question?
Yes, sir. So, for example, to help me connect the dots with something here, let's suppose that first project we did, postcard, where would that be on there? What will we, would it be container? Like, what will we select to create a postcard?
Okay, good question. And we will get there. So the other problem, so far we've seen how to style components, right? Like we have buttons and, elements in the page, right? Like individual elements on the page, like a button or an input. But what about layout? Remember that the point of Bootstrap is to solve the problems that we have with styling in CSS. The main problem, I would say, is laying out your page. And that's what Bootstrap did very well. And I think it was probably one of the first ones that started doing that. and is that pages in Bootstrap are separated in 12 columns. I mean, it would be hard for me to write 12 columns right now, but you get the idea. So the page is separated, is divided in 12 columns by default. Now, those 12 columns you can organize any way you want, but it has to be a combination of those 12 columns, right? So you can have 12 columns, and that will be a single column, or you can have 106 and 106, and that will be one next to the other, or you can have 3 or 4, so 4, 4, 4, right? Or you can have 2 and 8 and 2. So you can have any combination of that. So how that works, what are the classes that we need for that? The first class that we need to do that is a container. So the container is a class. By the way, all the layout classes you can apply to divs, usually to divs. You can probably apply to some other components, but usually they are meant to be used with divs, right? Divs is the main, I would say, building block of all your layouts here. So the first thing that you need is a container, and you have to follow these rules. If you don't follow these rules, then your layout will not look good, right? It will be all skewed. So you have a container, and inside a container you can have rows, and the class that you use for that is row. Right? What I'm saying is that inside container there can only be rows, nothing else. Container rows, and inside rows you can have columns. Okay? Now the column class is a class that can have different variants, right? And the variants are basically dash and how many columns do you want to use, right? So let's say I want to have 2 main columns. That will be 6, 6, right? So 1A with 6, and then another with 6. So again, inside a container, there can only be rows. And inside rows, there can only be columns. Correct? And inside columns, then you can put anything but containers. But you can put rows again. And inside rows, there are columns. You see where I'm going? Like you can have, like literally, you can have this. You can have, this is the container, correct? Inside a container, you have a row. Let's say you have a row here, right? And inside that row, you have 2 columns, each one with 6 spaces. So col 6 and col 6. Inside that column, you can put anything. You can put paragraphs, you can put buttons, you can put inputs, you can put forms, anything. Or you can put, again, another row. And inside that row, what's the only thing that you can put inside a row? Columns. So again, you have 12 again. So you want to say, okay, this will be 50, let's say 50, and then you will have another of 25. Well, 50 is not 50, sorry. It's 6, 3, and 3. So that will be 12 again. You see?
So where does flex?
You don't care. Nobody
I mean,
cares.
like, if you want to like put it something right underneath something else, you would create another.
Everything is a column. The word tells you it's a column, right? So everything will look as a column.
So you put another row underneath that. Is that what you're
No,
saying?
no, no. Everything in a column is aligned as a column, right? So let's go back a couple. Remember, container is the first level. By the way, you only put containers inside the body of the page, right? There is two types of container. A container usually takes only the center of the screen. Containers are limited in the size, in the width, sorry. Right? So a container usually takes from here to here. It's not the whole width of the page, it's just a small area in the center. Like most websites. You've probably seen that, like most websites only take a portion of the screen. And it's because I think it's proven that if you have a website that is all wide of the screen, nobody will, make the effort of, move your head all over. You only focus on that small area, so you want to concentrate all your data in that area, right? That's why containers are usually like that. But what if you want on a container that takes the whole screen? There is a container fluid version. So container fluid will be a container that's the width of the screen, right? But usually you use container because you want to use that middle section. Okay, inside the container, then you will have what? A row. And inside the row, you will have columns with the amount of,
Six.
yeah, exactly. So they have to match. They have to add up to 12.
And that's always the order right there, container row column, right?
Container row column, and if you want to put another row, you can put it inside the column, but inside the row, it's only columns again.
So I'm saying underneath that one, you would create another row.
You don't need to. You need it, you can add it. What I'm saying is inside a column, you can put anything that you want. Let's make an example in this, right? So let's put it here. So first we have what?
Container.
Containers. And then we have a row. I'm repeating myself because I know that I will go to your exercise and I will see a row inside something else and then a column inside the container, and you will ask me why it's not looking good. It's like because you are not respecting the order. Container, row, column, as many as you want. I mean, if you put more than 3 levels, that's gonna work. I mean, because it will get so small that you cannot put anything inside, right? But at least the first 2 levels, container, row, column, and inside a column you can put another row, and then it's column. And then inside a column you can put whatever you want. I think that's pretty much all you need, right? So let's do it again. So row, and if I want to split this in 2, let's say I want to split this, let's put an exercise here. Let's say I want to split this in 4/8. I want to make a side bar, and then the whole rest of the screen. These are a bunch of websites that work this way, right? Like Twitter, for example. Well, Twitter is probably 3. So let's do, like for example, what do you think it will be in this case? This same page. Like this would be like probably
4, 8?
No, 4 is too much. Like probably 2, and then the rest will be 5, 4 and 4. So 2. No, wait. 2, 5, and 5. Yeah, that amounts to 12. So let's do that. So this will be like the project section. And what is the file section will be? Column what? 5. So this will be files. And then we have column 5. And this will be the canvas.
Isn't there another div? Oh, there it is. Isn't there another div?
There you go. You see it? There you go. So it's a line, right? 2, 5, 5. No matter how, like if I make this website wider, It's too bad that I cannot use like a browser. Let me see here. Yeah, I cannot. If you make it wider, you see it will still respect that. Up until a point where it doesn't, like after a point you see that it's not taking more space, it's just keeping there because the container is not fluid, it's just a container, right? Cool. Let's modify to a container fluid. Let's see what's the difference. And now you see that it takes all the width of the screen. So that's what a container fluid does.
And you have a padding by default, right?
Sorry?
You have a padding by default?
It has a padding by default, yeah. It doesn't take up to the border, yes, yes.
And you can modify it, or?
Good question. I would guess you can. Not sure if, yeah, not sure.
So they're basically plugins, they're coded inside, it's coded for you.
It's coded for you, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't have to touch CSS.
Yeah.
That's the point
You
of.
can modify it, but you're gonna have to change somebody's source code. You're gonna have to go into their GitHub and
Mhm.
then you know what I mean, fork it and then
find the
you're gonna
body
go
and
through a lot.
put it on-
Yeah, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Let's do another example because I want to show you the power of the columns and the layout. So let's do this. Let's assume that you have pictures, right? Let's say you have a grid of pictures. Like let's say you have 3 by 3 pictures, right? That would be column 4. Now there is one thing. Is that let's put a picture inside here. Where can we get a picture? Actually, okay, let's make another class here to be BG. I will use a little bit of CSS just to show something, but the point is not having to use CSS, right? So I'm just using BG to show something. Okay. How can we separate? Okay, let's do one more. I guess we can do border. Sorry, 1 pixel red. Okay, this is better. So as you can see, we have 4 columns, each with 4 spaces, and they amount to 12. But what happens if in the same row I add another column? I would not add it. I want you to think about what should happen when I add another column 4 there.
I'm gonna take it.
Why not?
You have up to 4, and that's it.
Yeah.
You get it's 12.
Okay.
You have to. You only work with 12.
Okay. So, anybody? Wait. What's the? Okay, what is the? No, I want to keep it like that because I want 3 in the same row.
He's saying, what if you made a mistake?
What if I add by mistake or intentional because I am intentionally adding a new one here, right? So the answer is it will, if it doesn't fit, it will show up below, right? So right now I'm adding another one and it will show right there, right? So I can add as many as I want and they will keep showing below, right? So this is good for a grid, right? When you're creating a grid, of course, the problem is that if they are not the same height, it will get a little bit messy. Right now, they are all the same height, so it will look like a grid. But if one is like higher than the other, then it will be messed up. Like for example, if I do this one, I do BR, and then I put a B. Oh, actually, it looks pretty good. That took me by surprise. I thought that it would be messed up. Okay, but that's not the point actually. The point is that with this in place, I can have responsive columns, right? Responsive column is if the width of the page is different. You see that now it's always three by three columns, right? But what happens if I have, like, the person opens this app in a mobile phone? It would look like this, right? Do I want to be still three, or I want to be a single column? Single column, right? So in Bootstrap, the columns, they have modifiers. They call it modifiers. So you can specify how it will look like in a much smaller width, right? In a much smaller device. Usually the device sizes that we have are this. If you have a phone, it will be SM, the modifier. If you have a tablet, it will be MD. If you have a desktop, it will be LG. And if you have bigger than that, I think it will be XL, if I'm not incorrect or I remember correctly. So let's say that I want to use this SM for phones, right? So I can add another class here, say for SM use 12. So that means that for all my elements, and I will just copy paste them because otherwise I will be writing too much code. Oh. Call for takes priority, so I will have to specify call for is for medium probably, well, for large desktops. Let's put 6. So in a mobile phone, it will look like this, but if I go to a tablet size, then it will be like this. Well, LG's desktop, not tablet. MD is tablet. So if I go to a desktop, it will be 3 columns. If I go to a mobile, it will be a single column. Of course, we have a one value in between is the MD. So for MD, let's do 6. So 6 will mean 2 columns, right? So mobile or phone, it should be around this tablet, desktop, right? And that's how you make basically responsive websites. You just make a different adjustments to the columns. So you say, well, this column in a mobile will be this width, and in a desktop will be this width. And they will reorganize themselves in the rows, so in a way that you can still use it, right? Questions about this? It's kind of hard to understand at first, but
So it's the class that you're inputting, the container row column. The column div class, the col LG4, col MD6, those are the plugins, right? Basically. That's
yeah, exactly.
Bootstrap right there.
Yeah, this is Bootstrap.
Yeah.
Bootstrap.
Okay.
So this means, called SM12 means this is a column, and in a small device, use 12 spaces.
Gotcha.
This column in a medium device use 6 spaces, and this is a column in large devices use 4 spaces. So that's why when you have a big desktop, each column will be 4 spaces, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. So it will be look like a grid of 3 by 3. And if you have a tablet, then you say, okay, this is a medium-sized device. So every column this will be 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6. So 2 at the same time in the page. And if you have a small device, then it will be 12. That means that only one element in that row. Got it?
So we
Makes
hope
sense?
We hope that they don't make some kind of crazy kind of form factor that's.
No, that's the point. Is that's the point, because the thing is, if you are making like an exercise that we have last class. If you're trying to make this, right? You try to make this. This looks good in a desktop. But if a user of your application opens this in a mobile app, how it should look like? Think about it, right? It should look like everything is one top of the other, right? So let's take this as an example, like this one. For example, this is simple. I mean, it's just an alert, right? Nothing here. But again, container, row, and then this is a column of 12 for the alert, and then another row for this. By the way, in a single container, you can put as many rows as you want, right? I think that was clear from the beginning, but if not, I'm making it clear. So you can have many rows in the same container. So 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, etc. So this row, for example, you have how many columns? 1, 2, 3. And the classes for this should be, for example, for this in a desktop, this is like, this is like 5. No, it's not 5 because 5 is around here. This is like a 4, 4, and 4. Right? Kind of? Maybe like a 4, 3, and 5. I know, it seems weird. Because this is 6. This should be 5. I think this should be 5. Something. Right? And then.
Like 6, 2, 4.
Something like that, yeah.
6, 2, 4.
6 to 4, I think it makes sense. Okay, so this will be call LG6, call LG2, and call LG4. And then if it's a mobile, then it's call SM12, call SM12, and call SM12. That means that when you open this in a desktop, this will be call 6, call 2, and call 4. And it will amount to 12. But if you open in a mobile device, then this will be 12, so a single column, a single row. This will be 12, so it will be below, and this will be 12, so it will be below. Right? And it will look good. Let's do that example, just for that row, by the way, not the whole thing.
How can I do the last box?
Which one?
The message?
The message is 50-50. I mean, it's 6-6.
Oh, yeah.
6-6 in a desktop is 6-6. In a mobile is still 12-12. Right? Let's do that.
In the case you say that, for example, for mobile, the card will be 12 columns.
All of them will be 12.
It have to be the 3 have to be 12 columns, or
If you want to be a single by themselves in the row,
for
yes.
example, I want the CDC smaller than the card also in the mobile.
Oh,
Can I
okay.
say
That makes
like
sense. Yeah, that makes
2
sense.
columns and the other one. 12
Oh, I
columns?
see where you're going there. Actually, we can test that hypothesis in this same example. Okay, let's do the card, CVC, and amount row, right? Let's do that. So how do we, here. Okay, we have a row, and then we say, this will be column, what was the name again? LG6, right? No, LG5. And then column SM12. So this will be car. 6 to 4. Oh yeah, right, you're right. So 6. I think it should be 534. 534, right? It seems 534, yeah. No, it's just integer numbers. Call LG3 and SM12. That will be for the CVC, right? And then we have the amount. So the amount will be 4 call SM12. Okay. By the way, let's add that BG class that I have so we can see them. Okay, so in a small device, they will be one on top of each other. I see what you mean. Let's do the but if I make this bigger, then it will be car, CVC, and mount, right? Now, what's your name, sorry?
Fernando.
Fernando was saying is that in a mobile device, perhaps I don't want the CVC to be in a single column because it's too wide, right? And perhaps I want to put together CVC and a mount in a single row. So how much will you split them in a single row in mobile? Because a mount it should be a little bit bigger than CVC, right? CVC is usually 3-4 digits, and a mount is a little bit 3-7, 4-8.
4-8.
So let's do this 4, and let's do the 8. Wait, call SM4. Yeah. Oh, there is an extra small. I was like, what? Okay, yeah, there's an extra small.
That is for
I don't remember. Oh, because I read the Bootstrap 4 and this is Bootstrap 5. So in Bootstrap 5, we do have extra small, yes. So SM, MD, LG, XL, and XXL. So yeah, if it's smaller than SM, you need to specify that.
So how do you specify? You don't put anything, right?
You don't put anything. I think it's just call.
Cool.
The thing is that Bootstrap is mobile first. So it will just use first that one, and then the next one, and the next one until we have a definition for that, right? So yeah, it will look like this in a mobile. If it's extra small, then it will definitely need it.
in the case for the extra small, you want to have the CBC like.
I guess you can do this. Well, oh wait, you need to. So let's say you want to keep that same in extra small, I guess. Yeah. Got it? Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't. Let's not do extra small for now. I don't think any device is extra small today. Like extra small in the documentation says that is less than 570. Well, very old iPhone maybe. I don't know, but maybe a small, like an old iPhone maybe has that.
SE, it's really small.
A what?
The iPhone SE.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, it should be.
Actually, there is a way to know. And if you open any page in the inspector, not sure that Chrome has that. Well, there is a.
There is in Chrome.
Well, this is Firefox, and you see that you have different devices here. So iPhone Pro. Yeah, this is an iPhone Pro, and you see the size here, 375. So this is definitely extra small, right? By the way, this is the way Firefox does it. In Chrome, I think there is a nicer. I don't know. I like Chrome for that a little bit better. And you can see here it has like this. Or you can just say, well, what do you want? And as you can see, G4Geeks website is not responsive at all. It's very bad. Sorry.
Isn't that right?
Yeah, let's fix it. Cool. So that's how layouts work. Remember, you can put as many rows as you want, right? Let's do the one that you were asking about, the one for the. By the way, let's do MD here. MD. Okay, this is MD. Okay, so after this row, I will add another row. So you can put as many rows as you want. Right? Now, this will be the one for the text area. There is other classes that you can use, let's say called MD6. And this will be the message, right? There are other classes that you can use. There are other classes that you can use that allow you to offset the column. But because why if I only have one column in that row, but I want to move the column a little bit further, right? Instead of using the first 6, I want to use the last 6, or from the second, or put it in the middle of the page, right? So there is an offset. So offset, and I think you can do offset 3, and that will not use 3 and then start using call 6 from there, right? Or you can say offset 6, and that would mean don't use 6 and then use the other 6. So offset is basically a column that some space that you want to leave empty. You can do that as well. Not that cool, but still there. You can use it. And also offset has its own modifiers, right? Because you want different offsets in different you want different offsets in different screen sizes, right? So yeah, looks good.
Professor, in what type of scenario would you have to use something like FlexBox? Would that?
Right now, with Bootstrap, not anymore.
Not at all.
No. I mean, probably not. Technically, no. That's a good one.
So, like, because you could still add another style sheet to this.
Yeah, you can, like I did there, right there.
Right,
I added.
you put the style there.
Yeah.
And if you want to justify the content in
If
the center.
exactly, if Bootstrap, so if you want to do something that Bootstrap doesn't provide out of the box, you will probably need to add some CSS, right? And I can think about one thing that they probably don't provide, although maybe they do. So what if I want to do like a, oops, I think I left the, here, okay. So they have something called tag. Let me see if I can find a tag. So a tag, what do you have, what is the tag? Well, they have flex as well, so. Well, you can use flex too, if you want to. Position. Yeah, everything is in Bootstrap now. That's pretty much like anything you want to build. That's the other thing that Bootstrap will give you. So Bootstrap will give you a set of components that you can use with all the styling already applied. They will give you layout, right? So you can lay out your application however you want, and they will give you a lot of utilities like this, like position, shadow, sizing, spacing, right? If you want to space stuff, you can use those. Like for example, position, right? Position absolute. Remember how to create like a tag? That's why I want to find a tag. It's maybe not a tag, it's like a badge. No. Oh, pill badges. Let's see. Okay, like a badge. You see? Like this. I want to use this and put it on top of a button, like in the corner of a button. Right? So to signal something. I don't know. Let's see if we can do that. Using just Bootstrap without any extra CSS. So let's create a button right here. Button, class, btn success, and it will be send. That's our button. But if I want to put something inside that button, like a pill, right? What is the, like this dangerous pill, danger. Okay, I want to use this pill. Okay, but instead of danger, I want to say 2. And I want to put that 2 like in a corner of that button. Let's see if we can do that. Perhaps we can do a div. Oops. And class position relative. Right? Everything still looks the same because position relative is the default. But I can now style my bash to be position absolute. And notice that I'm still having write a single set of CSS. And now I can do, what about the positions, helpers, position? I can do, no, utilities. Oh, okay, so I want to do actually they're right there. I was just doing exactly what they have. Oh, you can put it inside the button. Nice. But you see, you had to put position relative. Oh, I was doing a div, and then I guess you can do it. It's right inside the button. Nice. So this is the one that I want, right? So instead of having a div, we can make our button position relative.
So there is still a type of CSS because that position,
Yeah,
that position,
it matches
that was all in the styles folder before.
Exactly, yes.
So, but
Yeah, I see your point. It's like still CSS. Yeah, kind of. It's getting there.
Yeah, you're just doing the styling like in line.
yeah.
Yeah, but using classes, not using inline style. It's just classes that already pre-reading for you, and it will already give you some behavior. So what I'm saying is that once you manage to do it with only classes, there's no limit of what you can do, right? Yes.
So you're pulling, it's still using the selector for the class, pulling from Bootstrap, but you're overriding with those attributes that you're putting right there.
Those are Bootstrap classes.
I know, but then,
They have a behavior,
yeah.
right? So for example, the behavior of BTN success is to create a button with green background.
Right.
And position relative is just
Default anyway.
it's just the position relative class. So if I check what position relative is in the document,
It's overriding the default.
it's just position relative, literally.
Oh, okay.
And then batch, it will have all the styling for this batch, and then rounded peel will be like rounded borders, and text BG danger, it will be like background red, color white, and then position absolute will allow me to put it anywhere I want, and then I can do top 50. Actually,
Top 50.
Cause small button.
That means top 50%?
What about if you do bottom 50, it'll do the opposite maybe?
it's a good question. Let's do 100. Oops. Have to be careful. Let's see an example how they do it. They do top 0. Oh, they do a translate. Yeah, they do some, but they still Bootstrap classes. There's no CSS involved. It's all Bootstrap, right?
I think basically, like the way that I'm looking at it is, instead of you going into CSS, writing position, the class you're choosing, and you're putting the position with the little brackets, instead of doing that, you're basically plugging it into the class.
Exactly. You have a class that represents that behavior, and you just use the class, right? there are classes that have more behavior than others. Like for example, position absolute class is pretty. It's just a CSS that says position absolute. There's nothing else there. But if you have a class that says button success, that means that the color is green and the hover is a darker green, and it has like the old line is like shaded again. So if you check the code, the actual Bootstrap code, and you go to that button success, you will see that it has some properties there, more than yes.
So if we want to override what's in pulling from that class, pulling from Bootstrap, we've already said up at in our header that we're pulling these styles. Do we just inline with anything we put as an attribute would override what is pulling from the style? Like we want to change that outline or the hover color or something.
Oh, okay.
Or we can leave that for another time, I guess.
Yes. Let's do that. So basically what he's saying is that what if I want to change that behavior that Bootstrap is already providing, then you will have to go two ways. You will have to go to the Bootstrap code and change it there in your version, in your own copy, or you can override it with your own CSS and apply those CSS after, right? Like right now, for example, button is green, like button, this is this green, but what if I want to make my buttons, instead of rounded, I want to make it square, right? I should be able to do this. Button, border radius, none, or 0. And it works, right? So now all buttons will not have that round border, corner, sorry.
It'll keep everything else except with your.
It's because my CSS is after the the style of Bootstrap.
But you can create a new class and give it only
Yeah,
one.
exactly. That's the other option. I can create my own button square and give it that class of only the buttons that I want to be square, right? That's a good one. Yes, question. I know it's yes.
In order to pull in all those Bootstrap components, you have to have that script.
Let's go there. So to initialize an app with Bootstrap, you can go to the documentation and the introduction. You will see there a quick start for all your projects that you're gonna be working, not today, but probably, well, yes, today, because we have a project today. So this is your typical web page, right? Nothing in it, just the header, the body, and title. Now, if I want to add Bootstrap, I need to include the Bootstrap CSS and JavaScript in it. So this is the CSS, and this is the JavaScript. Okay? And you can also include Popper. Popper is a library, it's a dependency. So if you want to do something like a model, this is a model. Oh, actually, see? If you want if you want to make this work in your examples, you need to add that Pooper library, because I think that's part of Pooper. And if you don't have JavaScript in your project, then that interaction will not work, because that only works if you have JavaScript. So with only CSS, only the Bootstrap CSS, everything that is a static, layout, styling, typography, components will work. But everything that has an interaction will not work, because that's JavaScript, right? So you need to have two. You need to have, again, you need to have the CSS for the styles, right? And you need to have the script for the interactions. You know, the components that require interactions. Some components require, like for example, the accordion, right? You see this thing that collapses? That's an interaction, right? That probably needs JavaScript. So if your accordion doesn't work, it's probably because you're missing this JavaScript. These drop downs, I guess they also need, you see? They also need JavaScript. Probably popovers, of course, they need JavaScript. It's just like a small thing that shows up when you click it.
So JavaScript is just interaction.
Interactions, yes. Anything that requires interactivity is JavaScript. Remember that HTML and CSS is just content and styling. That's all. There's a little bit of animation here and there, but it's not that you can click and then something happens, right? If you click and something happens, that's probably JavaScript. Like here, you click, something happens, that's JavaScript.
So it's browser loaded. It's already loaded upon the page. It's loaded by the browser, not the server.
Yeah, exactly. But you need to have the JavaScript, this.
Yeah.
That's required for those interactions to work in Bootstrap. Okay, questions?
Do you
Okay.
put that script in the head and just have for the entire document, or do you have to have each? I guess. Oh, you have to have that particular script for that particular interaction. That little.
No, this is for everything. So this is for the CSS. You notice here that the file says Bootstrap min CSS. This is the compacted version of Bootstrap. Like, let's open this file. This is interesting. Let's open this file in a browser, right? Check this out. Boom. This is CSS, super condensed, because of course, nobody's.
Remember I was asking you if that, like getting to that site right there, wherever this is hosted.
Oh, I see what you mean. This is hosted, but notice that this is hosted by gsdeliver.net.
Yeah, if that went down wherever that hub is.
Yeah,
that,
but
like,
for this, yeah, it will, for this person that failed. That say it will fail. But every website, you can, like, that's another thing. You can download your own version.
instead of pointing into that.
Yes, you see you have alternative CDNs. CDN is basically a content delivery network, meaning a network that basically just serves content like JavaScript, images, etc. So you have GS Deliver, that's one of them, but you also have CDN GS, and you have Unpackage, and or you can download it. And when you download it, you have all the CSS right here. You see that the only thing that you need is this one, right? Everything else is just an alternative to that. You don't need all of those. You only need the Bootstrap min CSS. And in the JavaScript, you need the Bootstrap min JavaScript. That's all you need.